You are listening to the Horse Radio Network, part of the Equine Network family.
Dreaming of the spring horse show season? Us too. This week, we're sharing our favorite DIY tips to make training tools you can easily use in your home arena. Thanks for tuning in.
From Heels Down Mag, a podcast where horse pros chat about what's happening in the horse world over drinks. Welcome to Happy Hour.
I'm Justine Griffin.
I'm Jessica Payne.
And I'm Ellie Woznicka. Welcome to episode 133 of Heels Down Happy Hour.
What up, guys?
Hello, hello.
How's it going?
Pretty good. Happy belated Valentine's Day to the both of you.
Yes, happy belated birthday to you.
Yeah, Justine. Happy birthday. Did you have so much fun in Paris?
I did have so much fun in Paris. It was very cold. It felt like unlike what it was probably like at the Olympics. But for me, living in Florida, it's like, it's a thrill to go somewhere cold for a week and then come home. So it was very nice. I feel like I'm entering the era of like the age of where you just don't celebrate birthdays. I turned 37. It's like, you know what I mean? Like it's not a year that you're excited about, but it was nice.
Not a year you're excited.
I love you too. They're so much younger, and you're like, it's not an excitement. You're like, it is still.
I mean, I'm not one of those people who are like, oh my God, I'm getting old. Like, it doesn't scare me to turn 40 in a couple years. But you know what I mean? It's not like when you're in your 20s and you like had a big birthday bash every year. You know what I mean? So.
Yeah, I gotcha.
You'll know eventually, Ellie. It will come to you too.
Yeah, eventually Ellie won't be having her big parties.
So this episode is brought to you by Traverse City Horse Shows. All right, and so speaking of Paris, I figured I should bring a French drink for this episode, if you guys are cool with that.
Absolutely. Let's hear what your favorite one was.
Okay, so I had this one at a hotel bar towards the end of my trip, and it was delicious, like dangerously delicious. It's called Le French, but it's very much like what is it, a French 75? Is that what that classic drink is? It's like very similar to that.
Oh,
yes.
So, of course, there's champagne in it, but the one I had rosé champagne. So it was like bubbly and pink. Oh. Then it has a bunch of other things. Another type of rosé. It was called Lillet rosé that was in it. And then the rosé champagne. And then some raspberries in it because it was pink because of all the rosé. And then, I want to say this wrong. Is it Chambord?
Yeah, Chambord.
Yeah.
So it's almost like a French 75 meets like Kiri Royale almost.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Exactly. Where it's fizzy
so good.
and fruity. But yeah.
I love both of those. So it'd be like a nice little combo. That'd be so fun.
And it's
like pink for for Valentine's Day and stuff like that. That'd be so cute.
So we'll share the recipe for sure in the show notes. But yeah, it was very good. I felt like I drank a lot of champagne in this whole first half of the month, but totally worth it. All right, so we got some news for you. Ellie, you want to go first?
Sure, I have some fun news. So I'm a big Laura Kraut fan. I know we talked about that a lot since the Olympics, but she was actually inducted or elected to the Show Jumping Hall of Fame, which I think is really exciting. She's definitely, So she was in the 92 Olympics, 2000 Olympics, Beijing Olympics, 2008. So I think I'm just so excited that I think she's just a great hand, and I loved watching her at the Paris Olympics.
Yeah, absolutely.
No, it's super exciting. It's well earned. She's amazing. She's a grandmother. She's a legend. Like, for some reason, Abigail still adores her. Like, she's the nicest person. Like, she's like, I'm friends with Laura Kraut. I'm like,
I love that.
Laura Kraut. And so it's still the cutest thing. She did meet her, and Laura was like, she loves you. And I'm really sorry. Like, she never met, but she tells everybody she's your best friend. And she's like, oh my gosh, that's the cutest thing. But she's so nice, and it's so well deserved because she's still such an amazing rider, and she gives the boys so much run for their money when she goes. She's been, at the 5 stars lately, and she's got an incredible string of horses still and is still killing it in the ring.
Exactly. So well deserved, and definitely some happy news.
Absolutely. And speaking of the 5 stars, that's my news. Did you guys watch either the Wellington 5-star, which was a couple weeks ago, or there was the Longines 5-star at WEC, which was this past weekend. They had some incredible horses, and the Wellington one was amazing. It was great. It was super fun to watch. Greya and Kim Farrington took the win, and Christian Cuckoo has been over here from Germany, and he was second place. But that Wellington one, my favorite was Mimi Goetschmann. She killed it, and she was third. She put in an amazing performance. She gave everybody a ran for her money, and she had a fast time to still be on the podium at such a young age, and a 5-star was an incredible achievement. So that one, Mimi, like, hats off to her because she did an amazing job that weekend. And then going to this past weekend's one, I kind of give it to the Irish. The Irish were top 4 at the 5-star in Ocala. It was amazing. Ken O'Connor was first, Shane was second, Daniel was third, Daniel Coyle was third, and Tom Whiteman was fourth. And so it was pretty impressive results to like go in there, and they clean swept the podium. So hands out to the Irish because they were doing something right that weekend.
Yeah, I saw snippets. Like, it was an incredible show to
Oh,
watch.
we watched both of them, like on Clip My Horse, had them both. And so it was amazing to watch. Like, we had such a good time watching them. And I was like, every time it was such an incredible thing to watch.
Aw. No, it's so cool. I just love that we're getting these big classes at WEC. Like,
Here.
It's so exciting. Yeah.
Well, it's fun. And like, you don't have to be, I wasn't at either of them. We were at home in North Carolina, but it was nice. Like, we could watch them both on the big screen and really cheer for everybody and not have to be there, that you're getting all this access to everything. And it's in this country, and, watching riders that, you adore and everything else, go for it. And, sometimes they're, swing and miss. Sometimes they're winning it. So it's fun to kind of watch all of it.
Absolutely.
Justine, what do you have?
Okay, so I love this story just because it's juicy and dramatic.
Oh, gosh.
I'm ready.
So maybe you've already read this in the Chronicle of the Horse, but there's been some drama going on in the Pony Hunter confirmation classes for this season. So basically, like, there's lots of back and forth of nitty gritty involving USEF and USHGA, and then what's happening at the horse shows, but it affects this specific season, like people competing at WEF right now. So there's been sort of this push from trainers and riders who have clients, kids in the Pony Hunters, to get away from doing the pony confirmation class. So if you don't know what that is, that's, like at the end of the division, the ponies line up and that, they're judged in hand essentially on their confirmation. And it's part of your overall score that you're judged partly, I think it's like 25% on the pony's confirmation, and then 75% of their performance over jumps. But the trainers are arguing that basically, this means, the horses might go jump around with the kids, and then they all have to hang out and wait until, at the end of the class to just stand head to tail for the judges to walk by and judge their confirmation. And it just, it's more time in your day, right? Like, to sit around and wait at a hunter show, which we already know, right? We've all shown the hunters that you sit around and wait a whole bunch.
Yeah.
So, like, what value does this add for the kids, for the ponies, yada, yada? So there was a legitimate push through the governing bodies to make this change. And there were 2 separate presidential modifications, essentially, to exempt WEF specifically, so, in Wellington, from holding the confirmation classes. So because of this, there's been like this back and forth now and a little bit of confusion on which, like, is the rule going to stand that the confirmation class still plays a vital part in the division, or should we get rid of it? But basically what's happening is, like, the first week of WEF, they held the confirmation class, I believe, and then the second week they didn't. And then so it's gone back and forth. It's, I guess, like, the trainers are really kind of pushing this protest. And there's 2 rules of thought here. Like, 1, it's a lot of time, like we said, and 2, people are saying it's important to teach young riders the value of confirmation. It's part of a tradition of horsemanship, and it's not just about riding. So we'll see what happens, but it's pretty interesting to me that there were two different presidential modifications over this already when the season's already happening. Like the ponies are here, they're competing, and I'm not.
Well, and I think maybe for WEF, they're just like, look, like let's get rid of it. It is a time. I mean, it is very hard to get all the way from Pony Island if you're somewhere else, and
sure.
So, maybe it's that because at the end of the day, it doesn't really usually change the placings. Like they've usually kind of, the confirmation is how they're going on the hack and everything else. So it doesn't usually change how they're standing, but at the end of the day, they are learning some skills. So yeah, you see both sides of it.
Yeah, and totally. These are big divisions too. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They're usually splitting them already.
California splits,
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like I get people's frustration of like, I'm here to the kids here to show and it's this whole ordeal. But I don't know. I think it's an interesting discussion. So I'm kind of curious to see what's going to happen in the long term. I think we're going to probably have to get through the winter season at least. I can't imagine there'll be major changes before pony finals or anything, but someone basically raised a good question and I'll be curious to see what the officials do with it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So we'll see. Thinking about your summer, I know I am, because that is the one time of year I do not want to be in Florida. And I would love to make my summer experience totally amazing by going to the Traverse City Horse Shows, where world-class competition meets the perfect summer escape. Traverse City offers 12 weeks of premier hunter, jumper, and equitation events, including 3 5-star weeks and a Nations Cup 3-star. And that Traverse City is where top riders compete and win. Jess, have you been there before?
Yes, I'm so excited. We have never been before, but this year we're adding it. We're going the first 2 weeks of July where it should be quite warm. They say that like it's so close to going on the lake. There's beaches. There's really good food, apparently. There's so many fun things to do with the family. So I'm so excited because I've already been searching. We already have our accommodations and everything. And so we're planning to take a big group of them. And their website's so great. Like they have fun places to stay between like a casino that's not far. There's tons of Airbnbs. And it has so much like of this great information just right on their website. Like it shows like you can go kayaking with the family. You can like we have a bunch of people that they say they rent boats for the whole season and like go up there. And so we are so excited. We have not done it, but it is definitely I've already done it. And then their stalls and everything are open. If you're not even going to go show, we actually have friends just going to come watch, come stay. Like I think one of our main vets is like talking. She's like, "Are you doing Travers?" And I was like, "Yeah." And she's like, "I might come, bring the kids. My mom might come." And so we're excited. So if you guys come, reserve your stalls. We are getting our stalls reserved and just start planning your trip and go to their website. It's so helpful. It's traversecityhorseshows.com. And they've got all the different information of where to stay, what to do. And it sounds like such a cool place to be. So I'm excited we're going this summer.
It looks so charming. I've heard it's a really excellent foodie city. Like, even if you're not, you know what I mean? Like, I
think there's so many things to do, not just a horse show. And that's what I'm excited. Like, we have a bunch of people going that aren't going to show. We have a bunch of people that are going to show. And so I think that mix will be a lot of fun.
All right. So, Jess, I saw on Doug's Instagram just a couple of weeks ago that you guys, I don't know if you bought them or you made them. I know you guys make a lot of your own jumps, which is super cool. But these very cool, like, big, thick poles, like for canter poles in your arena.
So they're great. We use them in all kinds of different aspects. Like, Doug did a great job, I have to say, on the video describing it. And it kind of tells it more. So you'll have to go to his or my Instagram. I'm Jess Payne Eck, and he's DP Equestrian. So go on and you can see, because we do a lot of different videos. Like I have me cantering over them, and then we have ones we'll set up as trot poles. So we used to just do the normal 4x4s, and they just kept getting stepped on and kind of beat up and everything else. And so we decided we went and did the 8x8s by Lowe's or Home Depot. You can go buy them. And then we painted them black. And
these are like 4-sided, like, you know what I mean? Like square.
Like just like, like a big square pole. Like a normal, instead of like you'd round down a 4x4, our normal 4x4s, our jumps, they're double in size. So you go and you ask like it's 8 inches, all the way, like, so it's a big square and they're huge. And so we generally will get them, you know, about 10 feet to be average. Like that's kind of where we've gotten them for 10 to 12 feet. And we put handles, like we just went to the hardware part of Home Depot or Lowe's and bought black handles so you can move them easily because they're too heavy to move. And then we did do some narrow ones that like, they're probably 3 feet long. And so then we like they're all over, you know, and we move them and they're everything else, but you can put them as like bounce. And so they have to be skinny and they have to like walk or trot or canter over them. But then we have the big ones and we set them up and we'll do anything like we've done the contest of like, how many can you fit in between it? And now that they're bigger, it's almost harder. So we did them with like normal rails where we were like, so how many can you fit in? 10 strides, 12 strides. And so we do like all these contests and see how many can people get them or how least. Like Doug got the other one. He said he got 4 or 3 the other day and I was getting it and I was getting 3.5 a lot, like, or whatever it was, because my horse's step was not as big as his. Like, so it's a fun little game. Like you're not really jumping them. And even if they get there on a half stride, like it's not hurting them and everything else. So it's a really good way to like practice your eye without having to jump a ton.
Yeah, and I love that. I love that you can make them at home, you know what I mean, and use them at home, drag them around.
And set them differently. And like we used to, you know, the clients really liked having the poles, but then, you know, they'd get moved back to the jump and then they couldn't be here. So they're so heavy you wouldn't jump them. And then the horses actually respect them because they're they're a lot bigger. So they're now permanent like ground rails that people just canter over or walk over, like the kids take the dog over or the pony over or everything. So like they're easy. Like the pony hacks, like I'm leading the pony around and he just steps over them.
Oh, that's awesome. I mean, Ellie, I'm sure like you guys have your own farms, your own arenas. Equipment is expensive, right? Do you have any other DIY hacks that you guys have made or tried or used around the farm?
Yeah, I mean, like, so for me, I definitely have some of the wooden poles. I just did PVC for a lot of mine just because they were lighter for me for carrying around. But what I really like that I did a lot with breaking the horses and things like that was having kind of like trail type obstacles, just because it's fun to get horses to do very different things that I feel like kind of can help with oversensitized situations. Sure. So like there are a lot of great like tutorials on the internet about like building like a bridge to walk over. You know, it's just important that you have extra supports in there depending on how big of a horse you are. Like Berkeley has a big boy bridge because he would break a lot of the ones that they would use on like, you know, the little quarter horses. But one of my favorite activities is just I've have a, what are they called? Oh, they're to put blankets on. Like it's just you could put a saddle pad on it. It's just like a fold out rack that I bought, but you could honestly just use like any kind of like swinging type thing. Cause I have it where it swings shut so I can ride just past it or I can swing it out. And what I have is like you could do a shower curtain or like a tarp, but I just cut it in like 5-inch and I make the horses kind of walk through it. Something I started like on the ground with a lot of like the babies and stuff before, obviously like don't just ride through it for the first time. But something like that is just, you know, it activates so many senses for the horses. So I think it's a really good bonding experience once you've already established really good groundwork to get them to kind of push their comfort zone a little bit. So that's a fun DIY one, just like a cheap tarp or a shower curtain. Another one I really like, and my friend does it a whole bunch, are the pool noodles. I don't know if you've seen these, but you can put them on like jump standards. And so that way you can kind of set them farther apart and have the horse slowly increment to walking through them when they're like touching the horse. So you just take pool noodles and, you know, stick them to the jump standard with like a little stick is what I use, or you could use like a bolt or something like that. And then have them out, you know, like long ways, like if you were like playing like sword fighting with like a pool noodle type thing. But I stick like 4 or 5 of them on each jump standard and I can start with them, you know, 20 feet apart, 10 feet apart, and then like slowly move it closer and closer to then it's like, 5 feet and these pool noodles are, rubbing against me and rubbing against the horses. And I think it's a great activity, especially for when you are off-roading on the trail. It's nice to be able to practice things like that, to practice you moving pool noodles. So like to simulate you moving branches and things like that. It's just nice to do those things inside the safety of an arena so you don't have to worry about becoming separated and having to walk home.
For sure. No, I love these ideas, from poles to desensitization. I'm never going to say it right. Different obstacles that you can do at home. I think this is awesome.
So our next guest is a good friend of ours, Derek Braun. He was a Grand Prix show jumper and now is the founder and operator of Split Rock Jumping Tour. He drew his own experience as a competitor to create a very European-style show circuit in America. Split Rock now runs shows all over the U.S. and has venues across the country. Welcome, Derek.
Yeah, thank you guys so much for having me.
Thanks for coming us on. So Split Rock, you guys started it in Kentucky, and you were the first to offer the show jumping classes and the only one to offer the show jumping classes during the Kentucky 3-day event. It was in 2018 was your first one. I can't believe it's been that long. Tell our audience how you've grown it, and it was like your baby, and now what it's become, because it has been such a pleasure to watch it grow personally.
Well, I appreciate that. Yeah, I mean, it's a little bit two different things. I mean, I started my show jumping tour back in 2015, actually, at our farm in Lexington, Kentucky, and our tour kind of started there. We kind of honed our craft over the years. I did a series of, not many people know it, I started with actually a schooling show series in Lexington at the farm, and kind of honed the craft of organizing show jumping events through that. And then we went straight at it by doing an international event at our farm starting in 2015. Then as the years progressed, we added a couple other locations and venues and shows, and definitely got the phone call from, at the time, the head of EEI, which is the owner, operator, and organizer of the Defender 3-day event, called me and asked me to help create a show jumping event during that big weekend. And honestly, it's been pretty incredible since the beginning. That first year, I think that that event as a whole, the Kentucky 3-day event, has always been looking for other things to kind of supplement what's already, considered the best weekend all year in our sport and really North America. How could they expand upon that? How they can introduce other activities for their fan base and everything like that. And that's kind of where I came in. I pride myself on being pretty in tune to the show jumping world and industry about, what connects everybody together in that regard. And that's where sort of, the ideas came from, is incorporating show jumping into that weekend was just really a natural fit. It's definitely a very different business model and everything like that. So there's definitely some growing pains over the years and everything like that. But, we started out as a 3-star for a number of years, had a couple of year hiatus because of COVID. And since then, it's always been the goal from the beginning to get this to be a 5-star event and one of the leading events in the world, North America, or if not the world. And I'm just super grateful to keep being a part of it and having a hand in building it up to this level. It poses new challenges by being a 5-star. There's a lot more money on the line, a lot more pressure in a lot of different ways. But, this event really deserves to be, I think, the best of the best in Kentucky, because really there is no duplicating the atmosphere. I know you guys know the atmosphere on that weekend. You just really can't duplicate that kind of fan base. They're educated on the sport, whether it be 3-day dressage, show jumping. They're all horse people. that get it and understand it, and they just naturally create an atmosphere really unlike any other. So it's really an incredible event. We're so excited to produce it and help EEI produce it and manage it. And now that it's a 5-star this year, we're really looking forward to what that's going to look like.
Absolutely. So what makes, I know you talked about the atmosphere, but what makes Lexington and the Kentucky Horse Park special for this kind of show?
Oh, for a lot of different reasons, but specifically this kind of show. I mean, I think the sport of like hunter jumper, equestrianism, show jumping, whatever you want to call it, I feel like Kentucky's home for that in America. I don't think that that's ever going to go away. I just think it naturally has a feeling of it, whether it be the town, the city, the horse park itself, the way it's oriented, the amenities that it offers, the green spaces, the endless spaces to ride. I think there's just something about Lexington, Kentucky that I think will always be home for equestrian sport in America. And I think that translates through this event. And I think the fans are so accustomed to coming and shopping and experiencing the thrill of sport now that they get to do that on the 3-day side at the highest level and at show jumping in the highest level now. There really doesn't get much better than that. It's really the only thing that you can compare something to that level of excitement if you're a fan of this sport in any fashion would be spectating a championship, right? So there's only 3 major global championships in our sports, and it's like World Cup finals, the Olympics, World Championships, and then sort of this Kentucky 3-day event kind of has that feel, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
Definitely. I mean, I think the last time I was there, I think it was 2019, and it's just so fun to be there all day, see the event, and then stay for the evening show jumping classes. But Derek, I was wondering if you could explain for our listeners, this year you mentioned that it will be a 5-star. What does that entail? Like, what for spectators who maybe have been to the 3-day event in the past and watched the show jumping in the evening, what makes this year special with with the bigger class?
Well, anytime, just like in the 3-day world or in any sport, there's certain levels to it, right? We started back in 2018 at a 3-star level, which is spec'd very high, but it's not the highest level. And the 5-star level is the highest level in our sport. It's, most of the jumps at 1.60 m in height, the most technical tests, the course designer sets much more difficult lines for the horse and rider combination to be able to deal with those issues and accomplish. And also you're competing against the best of the best. Anytime you have a 5-star event, the best riders, the best horses come out to play. And we've been really fortunate over the years to, even though it's been a 3-star and last year was a 4-star, we've been lucky enough to really have almost the highest caliber of riders that we possibly could get. I think this year is just going to be another level. I'm hoping we have multiple top 10 riders in the world compete, multiple riders from all over the world traveling from afar to come compete in this event. So it's just going to amplify it that much more and give the fans a little bit more excitement to watch because you're competing, or you're watching, literally the highest level of competition in the world.
Well, and I want to add so that the listeners know. So in the past, you guys have started Thursday night or Friday night, sorry. And so this year, I want to tell everybody, it's still going to start. You guys are starting Wednesday, aren't you?
Yeah, definitely different for this year is the expanded schedule. We are required at a 5-star level to offer a certain number of events and classes within the rules. And being a 5-star, we're required to offer 4 ranking classes. Now, the one thing that's been a little complicated, and the team at EEI has been great to work with in figuring out what schedule works best for both disciplines. And what we collectively came up with was, figuring out a schedule that doesn't necessarily really affect the other discipline. And that was really important to everybody on the team because having a 5-star show jumping event is a whole event in itself.
Yeah,
And,
absolutely.
we didn't want to disrupt what they have already got going on for so long, 30 years, or however long it's been, and vice versa. So even though it's one major event, we're kind of acting, even though we're acting together, we're kind of acting in on our own in some ways. So we wanted to coordinate with the schedule to make sure that each other wasn't affected so much. So yeah, it actually starts Wednesday. I don't think it's open to the public on Wednesday morning because that's an event that's sort of like a warm-up class for everybody going in the 5-star level. And also the whole weekend kind of starts on Thursday when it comes to the vendors and the whole rest of the sport and the 3-day side. So we're going to keep that like that. The show jumping side, we wanted to also get that first class out of the way before the real 3-day stuff starts in Rolex Stadium. So that's strategically done like that. But Thursday night really kicks it off strong.
Thursday night will be big.
Bat.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And for the audience, Derek is not afraid to build big courses. So you guys need to come and watch because the very first year
I
called
don't
Derek,
build the courses.
Well, no, you don't, but you're not afraid you're events.
I just put pressure to make sure it's to spec. Let's call it.
Yes, let's say that because the very first year, this is a fun fact about Derek. The very first year, I called Derek and I said, Derek, I really think Doug should bring that young horse. I think he was 8 or something at the time. And I said, I think he should go. It's only a 3-star. It could be to this. And he goes, Jessica, no. That is a fantastic horse. And we still, all of us love Quintessence. And Derek does this too. But he said, he was very, very sweet. He goes, it's going to be too big for that horse. He was like, wait till next year. He will be ready next year. But he was a very good friend and was very honest. It was like, it's not. No, wait till next year and he'll be it. So we're super excited.
It's not the best trial event.
No, it was not like a move up class.
It was something like that. It's definitely, we intend this one to be the ultimate real deal. No. And, I think it's really important, regardless of what level event we're putting on, that we really stick to those things because, I think the event as a whole and EEI, I probably can speak for, even though I don't work directly for them all the time, that the intention is to get this Grand Prix to the literal highest level in the world. And in order to do that, you have to make sure you have, I know you were joking around about it, but, for me, like,
it's still serious.
We really want this to be the best event in North America. Bar none.
You guys, top notch, have done an amazing job, and I can't wait to see what Kentucky brings this year. Because you guys,
be.
Oh, yeah, we're bringing both of them. And then, you know what? If we chicken out on the last, we got another day to go, not that there's extra classes. No.
Well, that's the beauty of this format is like we're actually accepting 60 riders this year, which is a lot more than we ever have in the past. I mean, last year we accepted 40 because it was a 4-star, and the years before that we only accepted 30. So 60 riders is really a lot. 40 will qualify for the Grand Prix. So, but the best part is that it will be the best of the best, but I actually encourage, like in all my reach outs to riders and communications, I encourage everybody to enter, actually, even if you maybe know you don't have a horse that can jump the Grand Prix, that the other events really are almost like a full horse show in itself.
Absolutely. You guys have given so many options that, I filled out the USCF today, the wish list, so that we have chocolate and Quintessence to come.
Awesome. And Doug's one of those guys that we just got to have Doug because,
absolutely.
There's a whole added level of coolness to somebody doing both disciplines. That just doesn't happen often.
Nope. So, we appreciate it. Well, thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah, Derek, thank you.
Of course.
We'll see you in Kentucky.
Having me.
Yeah, we'll see you in Kentucky.
Awesome. I appreciate it, guys. Thank you.
All right, everybody. I'm very excited to introduce our next guest. Danielle Burgess is a lifelong equestrian, and she is the founder of a very cool new program called Instagrooms. Her mission is to empower grooms by helping them increase their income, gain new skills, and expand their opportunities, all while giving horse owners and trainers the flexibility they need to staff their barns and horse shows with ease. That's what Instagrooms is all about, really making those connections. And I'm excited to learn more about it and welcome Danielle to the show. Hi, Danielle.
Hi, Justine. Thanks for the introduction.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for joining us. So naturally, I feel like the best place to start is, can you tell us just a little bit more about Instagrooms and how you came up with this idea and just how it works?
Yeah, of course. So Instagrams is like the gig platform for the horse industry. If you have dogs and like Rover, we made something very similar to them because the horse industry just doesn't really have anything that, highlights those short-term freelance gigs. And we are a huge gig economy. So I thought, why not build it? So
I love that. I mean, Rover is a great example. And I think when you think about like where people are looking for this information, like sure, there are a couple of websites here and there, but it's like Facebook or Instagram that people are like, hey, I'm looking to, you know what I mean, pick up this job. So I think that's amazing. It's a really entrepreneurial idea. So obviously you were a groom, you know the life, the lifestyle. What is that really your driving force? Like what made you want to create this platform?
yeah, I've done a little bit of everything in the horse industry, right? Like I grew up considered like a backyard rider. I started training horses in my backyard. And then I come from a family that isn't not horsey at all. So yeah, I ended up moving out west when I was 20 and pursued my professional career in horses. I started horses. I've started over hundreds of horses, sold hundreds of horses, coached, trained, groomed, kind of done a little bit of everything. But yeah, how this all started was actually because one of my good friends called me up one day and she said, hey, I know you live out in Vancouver and I'm coming up to Thunderbird for our first time and our groom can't cross the border. She's like, I just found out he doesn't have papers, right? And she's like, can you come groom for me this week? And I was like, well, lucky you today. I live like 5 minutes from Thunderbird and I can groom for you. But it really got me thinking, Simone was somebody that's been in the horse industry for like 40 plus years up and down the West Coast. And I was like, well, somebody like Simone, who's like super well connected in the horse industry, has a tough time and has no resources to find a groom last minute. I said, how many other people are in this position when they're traveling or just need like last minute fill in help, right? Things happen, people get hurt, and horses don't stop, right? And people need that last minute fill in. So that's kind of where the idea came along. And then I started building it. But it's been quite a journey building it. And I'm excited to finally have it up and running and get people, their first bookings and making some money.
Yeah, that's great. This is such an interesting, amazing concept. What has the response been like for you guys?
The response has been quite great. I've had like a lot of people say like, oh, I wish this was around, when I was like a teenager, when I was starting out, that kind of stuff. And I'm like, well, it's never too late to, get started now, right? You can still make a career out of it. But yeah, the response has been really good. We just launched a new version of the site, which is the one that we're going to run with after some trials. And we've had over like 500 people list services in like the last like 3 weeks, like requests going on, lots of bookings. So yeah, I think it's definitely something, that the industry needs. I haven't had too many people say like, oh my gosh, Danielle, this is the dumbest idea I've ever heard of.
What's your overall? Yeah, no. What's your overall goal? Like, what do you hope for Instagrams and what kind of relationships do you hope to build it from?
Yeah, I think the end goal is just to have like a global platform that, where we started off in North America, but expand, into Europe, the UAE, pretty much anywhere where there's like a lot of like horse activity going on and horse services being, bought and sold essentially. And yeah, that's kind of like the global expansion side of it. But as for like relationships, at the end of the day, it's just about, bringing like a better client experience and putting a little bit of power in the grooms and the service providers' hands, right? Because as you guys know, we were raised in that like working student, work for free, get the training, that mindset behind the industry. And I think it's time to put the power in the workers' hands, right? They don't have a lot of power in the industry right now. And it's quite sad to see, how people are still treated and taken advantage of. And of course, there's both sides, right? Like there's excellent employers. I've worked for amazing people, but you still hear these horror stories on a daily basis being on Facebook of people not getting paid and all that kind of stuff. And we just want to eliminate that, right? So we provide a safe platform so people can get booked and paid directly online. And they know if they accept a booking that they've been paid in advance, because we hold the money, essentially in escrow, no different than like your Airbnb or your Rover.
Yeah.
And then we release it when the booking's complete. So it makes for a very safe platform for people to run their business and bring clients on. And that's what we wanted. We wanted to just bring,
that's amazing.
Yeah, some safety and some security to the industry, which hasn't existed until now.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's amazing. That's very cool.
Absolutely. I mean, and we've seen grooms at the FEI level finally getting recognition lately for their hard work. I mean, that they totally deserve. Do you feel like this trend will continue to grow for grooms?
Yeah, definitely in the last 2 years since I've been building this. I've actually thought about this business for 8 years was the first time this idea popped into my head. But I didn't start building it till 2 years ago. And yeah, since then, the groom recognition has come up, right? And lots of people are getting recognized. Horse grooms, the community, we're partnered with them, Danette and Amy over there, we're partnered with them, and they do an excellent job, representing the grooms and posting that way. And I think it's great because they are the backbone of the industry and they do need more recognition and I think just better treatment, right? They're the ones working the hardest. They're the ones, and not to say that the riders aren't as well, right? They have a whole different ballpark of what they have to do and have to keep up with. But yeah, the grooms, that's totally different.
So what's next for you and for Instagrooms?
Yeah, so we're just working on, bringing users onto the platform, getting people their first couple, bookings, getting them used to it because it is so new in the industry. There's a little bit of like teaching involved, right? Some people get it like right off the bat. They're like, yep, I just needed somewhere else to run my business safely. And, they can just run with the concept, and other people need a little bit more help. And yeah, we're just looking to, continue to grow, right? We want to build a really big user base, get, hopefully like 10,000 people by the end of the year across North America, and just be a big database for people to find and book services. So if they're traveling to horse shows, they can find people, they can find braiders, clippers, whatever they need. We want to be the go-to for finding those services.
I love it. So Danielle, where can listeners find Instagrooms? A website, which is instagrooms.com, right? But is it an app or is it all really just like the browser interface?
Yeah, so it's considered a web app at this stage. It works as, app-like on a mobile phone. But yeah, www.instagrooms.com is our main website. We do have a Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. They're all at Instagrooms or at Instagrooms Inc., depending on which one. And we also have our online academy that we're building, which is instagroomsacademy.com. And that's our platform for short courses to, help people learn the ins and outs of the industry and how to run a freelance business.
That's awesome. Well, we will share the links to all of that in our show notes for listeners so they can find the platform and get connected with you. But I just want to say thank you so much for coming on. It's been great to chat with you.
Yeah, thanks, Justine, for having me.
It's that time, guys. Who's ready for Rose and Thorn?
I am.
I'm
Okay,
ready.
let's hear it.
Okay. I feel like I have a lot of roses, which is nice. So I'm like, should I do?
I know which one.
I know my Paris trip, which was very nice, and I survived. So I'll just kind of roll them quickly. But it's
I was
been
gonna
like
say, should you do all rose and no thorn?
no, I have a good thorn, and it actually is a question that I want to ask both of you about. So let me get through a couple of quick roses. I survived. So you guys know I went to Paris, but it wasn't my trip. It was my mom's 60th birthday. So our birthday is the same week. Mine is the 12th of February. Hers is the 16th. It's been a hard week for my dad my whole life. And then with Valentine's Day thrown in between.
Every 2 days he gets something cool.
Yeah, it's a rough one. So we gave him the year off and we went on a trip without him. But going through Europe with my mom and her two good girlfriends who had never been to Europe before was a lot. I love them, but it was like traveling with the Golden Girls and there's 16 pieces of luggage. I'm like, guys, we're in France. Everything is old. You're going to go upstairs. If you can't carry your suitcase, that means you should not bring that big of a suitcase.
No, it just means you can carry it.
Yep. I was the pack mule the entire time.
Oh, no.
Yep.
And then they were afraid of the metro. So everywhere we went, we had to take an Uber or a taxi. So it wasn't my trip. But my mom had a wonderful time, and that's all that matters because it was her big birthday. But I'm done complaining. But my real rose is Mikey and I went to a horse show.
Yay!
Yeah, it was a little bit touch and go right before we went because on his defense, I feel like we start getting somewhere and then like life happens and I'm busy and there's a hurricane or I'm on vacation. Like he keeps like, we're going and then we stop and then we're going and then we stop. So we had a long break between the holidays, but I was determined to do something and it didn't have to be pretty. And so I put this one schooling show on my calendar and I was like, well, I'm going to just pay for the entry. And then if I scratch, I scratch. So the week of the horse show came and he was still pretty like feral, like not settled in the work. You know what I mean? But I decided to go anyway and just use it as a schooling opportunity. Like if I scratched from the classes and we just hacked around at the horse show, that was fine. But he surprised me and came off the trailer, you know, when we got to the horse show, like, oh, you know, like he'd done it a million times because he has, you know, but, you know, he was still a little worried and there was still plenty of tension, but he really held it together. And I would say, you know, it wasn't the best dressage tests I've ever ridden in my life, but it was a great starting place and it felt good to feel like we can hold it together in some fashion, you know, and it gave me the inspiration I think I've been lacking with him with the like constant, you know, injury rehab cycle. So I feel good. So that's why it's my rose. He did great. He won his classes. We had decent scores. I'm very happy with it. But my thorn, okay, I'm getting to my thorn because I need both of y'all's advice.
Okay.
So right after the horse show, Mikey had a little colic, and that's the one thing he's never, out of all, you know, his legs try to fall off, and I'll have all kinds of other problems with him, but he's never colicked with me before. And it was scary. Like, he was fine, you know, it was like a, you know, wait and see, talk to the vet over the phone, give the Banamine, and then, like, you know, in a couple hours he was good. So we assume gas, right? That feels like a gas colic because it passed so fast. And we haven't had any issues since, except just a little bit, like he's been, for days afterwards, he was like on and off grain, but then has been normal. So I'm not worried about it. But something I thought about is, you guys know he's a cribber. Most of his life, I've kept him in a cribbing collar because we board, you know, that's what we do, is we've been at a full board place. Most people don't want your horse cribbing on the wood, right? And he's very manageable in a collar. Like when he wears the collar, he doesn't crib. But when I leased the farm with my friend the last year, we had these amazing bale-sized hay feeders in the stalls. And so he always had hay in front of him and had access to walk out into a small paddock at all times. So he never cribbed. So I left the collar off. Like, he rarely ever cribbed. But so since I've moved back into a full boarding situation, I've kept the collar off. But now I'm thinking, after this little colic episode,
he's probably cribbing.
Oh, he's definitely cribbing. I notice him cribbing more here than the previous living arrangement. So is it time for him to go back into a collar? Is that what you think?
100%.
Because, the vet obviously can't tell me, like, the cribbing is what caused the colic.
And it can't. But then did the weather change at all?
It did. Yep. It happened during a weather change. So
two things. I put the cribbing collar back on 100%.
All right. Okay.
I like swear by cribbing collars. Like if any of our like young ones ever started, like cribbing collar, just like live in the cribbing collar, and they can switch from the miracle collar to the thing under the throat.
Yep.
Like they can switch. I don't care. They have to be in a cribbing collar because I think that they just get, I don't know. This is my personal thing that I just like, they'll teach other ones, but then they also just get weird things happen. So I'm just like, live it, make them live in it. And then it's easier. And then I swear by when the weather changes, those days, like, so we're having a big weather thing right now. They've been getting Replenimash, the whole entire barn.
Yep. Yeah. I'm good about that with the Replenimash.
Was he on that when he colicked?
Yeah. Yeah. I had given it to him the days before. And then he also drinks the psyllium husk. Like he will drink the Metamucil like it's Gatorade. And I do that too when the weather changes and he sucks those things down.
Mm.
So then,
he's a good
I think
drinker. Yeah.
So if he's a good drinker and he's getting all that, I think you put the collar back on.
All right. I think that's where I'm at. So, because I see him, he definitely cribs more in this scenario. But, his living style changed. He was always had hay in front of him before. That's, I pay for extra hay at this whole boarding situation. But it's just different. Like the routine is different.
Have you thought, so the pony we have has one of those balls with the holes in it. So maybe that would
like
keep
in a
him
more Richmond.
Really, it's a big, like bigger than a soccer ball, like huge ball, like not
right.
Like
but they kick
ball.
It around to get the treats out of it. Is it that one?
No, but we put hay in it.
Oh, I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
So then we stick hay in it. So it's a slow feeder hay more so than even the hay nets.
Yeah.
And
I've
so
seen
then
those.
They play with it, but then they're being active and it's always on the ground and they're munching it. And we put we have big flakes, whatever. We shove it full of hay when he's in the stall.
That's a good idea. I mean, he definitely always has hay in front of him, but
I wonder if just the activity of doing something would be better than like I feel like cribbing's also boredom too, right? So they're bored, so they crib.
Yeah. Yeah. Because he's not the type, like, if it's dinner time, he's going to eat and not crib. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, he's not the type that's like, I have to crib all the time.
No, he's not cribbing because it's the bucket or whatever else. He's not mouthy. I think he's bored.
I think so too. But since I had that weird colic episode, I'm like, man, maybe I should put the collar back.
I would put the collar back on either way.
All right. Ellie, you have any thoughts?
I feel kind of like Jess was talking to me too. So to be honest, I stopped putting Batman's collar on.
I didn't know he was a cribber.
Oh, Batman's a terrible cribber.
He's a bad cribber.
When I say cribber, Batman is the kind of cribber he can live outside 24/7 and still crib. Like,
oh wow,
he cribs no matter what. And I know I've talked about the horse pacifier thing that I have, like the little like roller thing in his stall. Yeah. He cribs on that, so I have to actually replace it. But I'm like, I don't care. You crib on that instead of the wood. You're not doing me any damage.
You're not replacing it.
But, I have seen, and I was going to talk to my vet about it this summer because I have seen that there is like an increase. I mean, he hasn't had any issues with that. And with Batman, it's one of those things like his is definitely an anxiety behavior. So I took it off before his surgery and after his surgery because he was in the stall and he was like rearing up and stuff. And I'm like, no, you just had your stifles operated on. Like, just crib. And I have, right. And so I haven't done it since then. And he hasn't had issues like that. But I feel like he does get extremely anxious when I don't allow him to crib. And he doesn't, honestly, the collar doesn't do much. He'll crib whether you have the collar on or not. It's
he's a different level of cribber.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. But it sounds like for Mikey, like, maybe just adding it back or doing it like, when he's not in turnout or things like that. Like, slowly when he's more at his more annoyed periods, or his more boredom periods, or honestly get those pacifiers because
Yeah.
that is, so it's like supposedly, I'll send you a link, but it's supposedly like apple flavored, but I don't know. It's good for like even like Q and Berkeley like it because it's just like good for them being mouthy because it rolls. So it just
I
gives
like
them something to do with their mouth. Batman somehow figured out a way to plant it where it's still enough for him to crib. So I'm like, you know what? That's pretty smart. I can't.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Sure, you win.
I know.
You're not getting out of that one.
Yeah, but I have noticed now that he's been off of it for a while. Like, you know, he's starting to get a big neck, and he's doing it all the time. So I don't think. I mean, luckily for him, it doesn't inhibit him from eating and stuff. But I'm sure his teeth are, gonna wear down. So I have to talk to my vet this summer about slowly going back to a cribbing collar. Unfortunately, I think, but.
I know, because I talked to the vet about it after the colic, and he was like, you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. It's really your decision based on his. But yeah, because mine used to get the real like overdeveloped muscles in the neck too, and in previous living situations. But we were doing so good without it that every time the body worker works on him, like he's got pole issues because of the cribbing collar too. So it's like you got to pick your poison.
But if you change, that's why we have luck changing out the cribbing collars.
Okay, that's a good idea.
Yeah, I haven't gotten the one with the big block thing underneath.
The block underneath because the one was getting rubs and I had fleece on it and it was irritating him, and he's older. I mean, he's not old. He's like 17. And so then now we put the block under him and he's so much happier.
Okay.
All right.
Maybe
Good
I'll
to
do
know.
it.
All right. So Ellie, what's your rose and thorn?
My thorn is that Jess just told me that I probably should go back to cribbing collar. No. So
maybe.
Yeah, probably partially. No. My rose is fun. So I actually got a new job that I start next week, working from home again. I'd actually be working for McGraw-Hill Education.
Nice.
Being a product designer for them. So I'm super excited, obviously, because it comes with health insurance that I'm paying out of pocket right now. So that's huge for me. I'm sad to be leaving Barnes & Noble just because they're like the best, honestly, like the nicest and best coworkers I've had so far in my work life. But definitely excited to be working from home again and watching the ponies from my windows and things like that. So that is definitely my rose. My thorn is that, so there's a little bit of a story because Matt and I went with a friend of mine, well, two friends of mine. We went roller skating on Valentine's Day night. There's like a ring by us that has like an adult skating period. So there's no children. So you don't have to worry about like crushing children and things like that. But it like literally feels like you're straight back in the 80s. Like,
oh my gosh, that's amazing.
You guys are so cute. That's an adorable Valentine's Day date.
Right? It was so much fun. Matt's only ever been like one other time before, and he went all of like 10 feet, fell, and said absolutely not. So he was definitely struggling, and I haven't done it since I used to do it like every Friday when I was like in middle school and stuff.
Yeah.
Big, right? But I haven't done it, 15 years? So I was kind of nervous, but then I did it, and I was surprised that I did so well, but also I forgot that like I can't really feel the bottom of my right foot. So I fell a lot.
Oh no.
So my thorn is that my knees are purple.
Oh no.
Busted.
Like bad bruise. Like I've been icing them and heating them, and I have like a second kneecap because I have like with the bruise.
No.
Oh
and I'm
God,
like,
you're not kidding. Jeez.
No. It's legitimate. Like I'm like,
but was it worth it?
Oh, it was worth it. It was so much, so much fun. But Matt was laughing at me. He saw me in shorts the other day. He was like, "What have you done?" I'm like,
"That's amazing."
So hard, so many times. Yeah, and he always laughs at me because he's like, you bounce when you fall. I'm like, what does that mean? I was like, it does not feel like I bounce. So yeah, so my thorn is that my knees still hurt really bad, but thank God for NSAIDs, right?
Right.
That's funny.
How about you, Jess?
So my rose is, I'll start with my thorn first, actually. So I don't know why, but like in January, February, Florida just like doesn't like us. Like every year something happens. And this year, the poor girls were on the side of the road. And I've never heard this happen, but they're on the side, they're driving, they're about Jacksonville, and the big rig, there were 3 of them, thank goodness, all on the big rig. The ball sheared off the back of our like 5th wheel, sheared off from pressure. Yes.
Wow.
I'm not kidding you. It was awful. And so, I mean, we just didn't know that was a thing. I mean, it had just been in the shops because we're like, okay, we don't want any tires to blow. We don't want the wheels bare. Like, we had gone through all of the steps, making sure it would be like a peaceful trip down. And thankfully, Doug had flown down the week before. But it was probably one of the more stressful days because I get these pictures. It started at 7:30 in the morning as I'm dropping off Hudson at school. I get these pictures of the truck and the horses. Thankfully, everybody's fine. But the truck, thankfully, the truck is so beefy. It had the chains on it and they noticed right away, like there's cameras everywhere. So they heard a jolt and they looked and they just pulled over. But they're on 295. So everybody was fine. They called the police to get extra, like, work around. I had a very nice gentleman call me and say, hey, look, are you guys okay? I'm like, the only way you could help me is if you have a trailer, but everybody's fine. Like everybody's safe. Horses are fine. Horses didn't even know the difference, to be honest. But then on top of that, Doug drove from Ocala. Long story short, he fixed it himself, but then the ball was stuck inside of the trailer, like in the hitch itself, in the tongue. So then he had to go to another place, go get another spare. He had to replace that. He replaced all of this on the side of the road because the ball is on a plate. So he just bought a new plate and drove it up there. So, but I'm getting phone calls at pickup that the stewards at the FBI are like, are you close? Check-in's about to close for the FBI horses. So I'm having to find my friend and find out he's on 27. I'm like, yes, he's like less than 5 minutes away. They're like, okay, like this is just, it wasn't necessarily like so bad for me. It was so bad for everybody else on the team, honestly. It was so bad. I mean, I was so far away, I couldn't do anything but answer all the phone calls. And so I dealt with that side of it. But like poor Doug and poor Sam and everybody else, Chloe and Caitlin involved, that was definitely my rose because I don't think my blood pressure, like anxiety went down all day.
Well, that's like a horror story, thank gosh it went okay, like nobody got hurt.
Nobody got hurt. Everybody was fine, but like a horror story. Because I didn't even know, and we've talked to a lot of people that are like, we didn't even know that could happen. And so, yes, in theory, because of friction and it's welded on, yes, that can happen. But I mean, I've heard about it one other time, and it was a friend of ours unhooking it, and he found it sheared off unhooking the truck and trailer. He got very lucky.
Wow.
But I mean, it was a nightmare. So Florida like hates our one experience. So I'm thinking that's got to be our like thorn for the year of Florida. So my rose is that I'm going to put Florida back in it, that hopefully Florida likes us and Hudson has spring break and I can fly back. We're going to do Hits, WEC, and Live Oak for 2 weeks. Nice. So like all of the horses will be at Hits. And then the 2 FEI will go to the 3-star at WEC and then the 4-star at Live Oak.
That's great. And it's not you. It's not personal, Jess. Florida doesn't like anybody.
It's so bad. I mean, I broke my leg in Florida. Like, it's just every year. I got the plague in Florida. I'm hoping Florida is done hating us.
No.
I hope they like us in March.
Here. I hope so for you, too, but there's no guarantee.
There's not. It's Florida. So I don't know. So guys, I have the mailbag that I am so excited. I don't know why. Justine, I feel like yours could be good, but I feel like I can't wait for Ellie's answer on this one.
Oh boy, here we go.
No, I'm either it's going to be so extreme I could never pull it off, or it's going to be the most useful thing that I didn't know existed in life.
All right, so fair.
This person's asking for barn shoe recommendations. And Kendall in the Facebook group says, I typically wear Crocs at the barn because they keep my feet from getting sore after 10 plus hours in the barn every day. And shockingly, they protect them pretty well, which is kind of a maze to me.
Yeah.
Because I don't know. I mean, wow. But she's doing a lot of groundwork obstacle clinics this spring and would like something comfy, protective in the wayward of her feet. And wants to look a little less sloppy and goofy looking. And so, I mean, I live in my on clouds. Like I have waterproof ones. I know they have like more like Trekkie ones, but would that be my go-to tell you about a barn? Like, no, I mean, and most time in the barn, I'm in my tall boots. So I can't wait to hear because I don't have any other, I mean, mine are not really the greatest recommendations, I feel like.
Yeah, Ellie, you start because I feel like mine are going to be very Florida specific. So,
isn't
Yeah.
Crocs like the definition of a Florida specific?
I was going to say my barn manager, she wears like little, like Ariat paddock boots. Like she'll show up in them and turn, like feed, turn everybody out, and then she immediately puts Crocs on to muck the whole empty barn. Yeah.
I mean, I've never worn Crocs, so I'm not going to knock it, but I can't
I've never-
understand how that could be comfortable.
I used to wear them
I can't
as a
be that
kid.
person.
So I used to wear them as
No.
a kid. But like for me, like wearing them anywhere where like rocks could get in them, like they were
Or
just a pain in the butt.
Or gross, like sawdust and stuff. Like things get in those holes.
Mud,
Yeah.
and then also like your foot is deceased
pee?
if a horse steps on it, like
Oh,
in
I mean,
a croc.
it's done. I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah, you
yes,
might as
yeah.
well be barefoot. Yeah.
You might as
Yeah.
well be in flip-flops. That's what I was going to say. I mean,
Yeah.
flip-flops would be the next situation you'd be in. So
I'm just surprised people think like I can get that they're comfortable, but like support to be on your feet all day. I just
No.
can't imagine that. But
I mean,
prove me wrong.
yeah. So I can't wait. Ellie, please tell me you got something better.
Okay. So they're neon green. No, I'm just kidding.
I knew it. I knew
Like
it.
here we go. Here we go.
They're the most comfortable neon green shoes. I'm like, okay, can't do it.
They were made for spacewalking. No. So what I use for the barn that I actually just got, I don't even remember why I got them, but I got them at Tractor Supply one day because I was my muck boots had kicked the bucket, so I needed to buy like new ones, and they didn't have my size because I wanted to try the new dry shods. I've heard they're like more
I'll have to Google
they last longer than muck boots because I feel like I'm burning through muck boots at this point. So anyway, so I was waiting for those to ship in the mail, and I was like, well, I still need something waterproof. So I
Okay.
actually went and I got the Ariat terrain boot. So they're lace up and they're not super high. They come like right above your ankle but I will say like in terms of like comfortable, like all day shoes, they are fantastic.
See?
I do recommend like, I mean, Ariat had all of those, like, you remember the Volants that were those?
Yeah.
weird-
Yeah. Yeah.
I still have a pair of those.
They're
Not even
so
gonna
comfortable.
lie.
But I'm not going to lie. I think they make a pull on of that, Ellie.
Oh, really? Wow.
Well,
Yeah.
you know, they didn't have that at Tractor Supply, so I
But I'm
just bought
saying,
the cheap
I
laces.
think I knew you'd either be onto something or be so out there I couldn't get on board. But the lace up's good, but I'm not gonna lie, I kind of like this Terrain Ease waterproof
Oh yeah. I wish they
because
did
they
have
look
laces.
really comfortable. Like they look like sneakers that you could just like pull on.
Exactly. No, they are super comfortable. Like I like them a lot because the other thing that I was going to
Different
recommend is what I used for work, or well, what I used at Barnes and Noble because I was on my feet all the time. And my sister, who's a waitress, recommended the Skechers. They're called Max Cushioning Collections, and I wear those like at Barnes and Noble, and they are super comfortable. Like, but they're at the same time, they're almost like so thick, I would be afraid to walk on like super uneven ground with them because you can't really feel the ground.
They
So-
make a zip up as well.
Do
I
they
am
really?
like, yeah. Oh, I told you I was either gonna be like deep diving in or so like I can't even look.
Yeah, like I've ridden in them and stuff too. Like
You
because
go to their area. I mean, guys, you got to go to the Ariat website if you want comfortable looking shoes. the sole looks comfortable. They look like they'd be as comfortable as my On Clouds, to be honest, but
Okay.
way more sturdy and probably way more appropriate for the barn.
Yeah, and the waterproof part
Yeah.
is good. I think it even has mine has a little spur rest too. Like
You know
can
what,
ride
Ellie?
in them.
They have some that have neon green and pink on the side.
Perfect.
I like the cow print ones.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my goodness.
I used
They
to have a
do
cow
have the
print
wild
helmet.
side. They do have the wild side.
So, Jess, do you wear the On Clouds? Like that's what you wear to the barn?
So I wear, if I'm teaching and everything, I wear the waterproof ones and they're
Okay.
super comfortable. And
All
so
right.
I wear, I mean, I am religious. I have too many pairs of On Clouds because they're super comfortable in my feet. But if I'm teaching, if I'm at a horse show or whatever else, but if I'm in the barn, mainly around the horses, which I'm not sure would be any more protective than my On Clouds, is I'm in my tall boots.
Yeah, same. I'm
either in my tall boots or my waterproof On Clouds. Like I can step in water, I can step in the mud, I can step in it and like honestly clean them off. And they look, I've had every color and I keep going back to the black.
I go through like barn shoes so fast because Florida is so, like it's the opposite of you, Ellie. It's like our worst weather is obviously the summer and it's hot. So I don't want my feet to feel like a swamp, but it's hard, right? So honestly, this is a tip that I got from Courtney back in the day, Jess, is I have duck boots, Land's End ones that are amazing, that are insulated. So I wear those in the winter, like when it's cold. So my feet are warm. But, that's like, 3 weeks of the year. I'm not going to lie. I don't wear them very often to the barn. But then today I went to the barn. I had to meet the farrier and I rode and I just put my Vans slip-ons on and then put my tall boots on and then put the Vans back on. So I wear slip-ons like that or like.
See, the On
like,
Clouds you can slip on. Like I don't lace them up or anything. And for the summer, I love those. And I can teach them with shorts. And that's you're going to find me in On Clouds. But I don't know. I might be hitting up some Tractor Supply and looking at these. I don't know. I kind of like the slip-on ones of these for the wintertime.
Right.
Women's Terrain Ease waterproof shoes in brown.
I would destroy the Vans if I tried to wear them like how I did last year, or just last year when I leased the barn and was doing all the work. You know what I mean? Like now that I'm just a full board person and I'm not mucking stalls every day, the Vans are fine, because I wear them, I pull Mikey out of the stall, I tack them up, I change my feet into my tall boots. But 2 best mucking boots I ever bought were from the Target sales rack, and they had
no
you're gonna
way.
think I'm funny. I'm gonna take a picture of them because I still have them.
Are they neon green?
They're not. They're black, and they had
thank goodness,
rain boots for sale, but they're paddock boot style. Like they're just a short paddock, like rubber paddock boot, with a little elastic like your paddock boots around the ankle. And I have a warm weather version that has fur inside and then a no fur. So I wear the no fur most of the time. Like they're in my tack trunk in the barn aisle that I pull them out and like pull them on when Mikey's in the wash rack and I know my feet are going to get wet. And then I have the fur version that I wear on the very few cold days too. And those things are like probably 4 years old and still going. I bought both of them. They were like, I don't know, $30 for both pairs on the Target sales rack 4 years ago that I still have that I'll never find again, but they're amazing, So I know people like the Blundstones and different types of boots, but I've never invested in like an expensive pair. So I don't have a good one. But if you have good barn shoe recommendations, you should post them in the Facebook group.
Yes. I'm always looking to try new ones.
Same.
I burn through them so fast.
Right.
Yes.
We destroy them. You wear them into the earth. You know what I mean? Like until they die.
Yeah. Yeah.
But please, if you have a pair that are like have lived for years, share them in the Facebook group because we will all write down, like take notes,
For sure.
So if you have a question for us and you want us to answer it on the show, you can always send us an email at justine@heelsdownmedia.com or join our Facebook group that we're talking about. That's the Heels Down Happy Hour Podcast Lounge. We We have lots of great discussions there. That's where Kendra originally posted her picture about barn boots. And if you want to hear more from us, make sure to check out heelsdownmag.com for the latest news and follow us online at Heelsdown Happy Hour on Instagram and at Heelsdownmag on Facebook and TikTok. And if you love our show, please give us a rate and review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Play, or wherever you listen to podcasts. All right, guys, we want to say thank you to our sponsors this month, which is the Traverse City Horse Shows. And that's a wrap.
Cheers.
Cheers.